Hello, everyone. On today's episode of QuickBytes, we're going to be talking about augmented reality, its potential to be a game changer in the near future, as well as some potential challenges to its adoption. Here with us today is David Rose. David is an MIT Media Lab lecturer, inventor, and a 5-time entrepreneur. He wrote the seminal patent on photo sharing, founded an AI company, founded on computer vision, and was a VP of vision technology at Warby Parker. He's also the author of a brand new book called SuperSight, What Augmented Reality Means for Our Lives, Our Work, and the Way We Imagine the Future. So let's kick it off. Hello, David. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Tolga, thanks for inviting me to come today.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about some of the most disruptive and exciting use cases and describe the potential for augmented reality that are to be realized in the near future.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I mean, when I wrote SuperSight, it really was thinking exactly about what the essential benefits of this next evolution of human vision was going to be. So I kind of took it as a foregone conclusion that there will be a revolution in computing, and it will involve wearables, and it will involve changing and mixing virtual layers into what people actually are seeing. So the big question was, well, so what? So how is that going to help people as we move around our everyday? So there are 9 chapters, and each of them takes on kind of a benefit of the technology. So the first one is all about identified. It's about if you could have everything in the world labeled, what would that feel like? And the next one is about understood. So it's about being seen in a new way and also seeing the world around you in a new way so that you could have a coach kind of perched in your wearables that could help you as you interact with other people. The next one is about kind of helping do even more sophisticated help in terms of being styled in a new way, like getting kind of having subjective neural networks that are able to make judgments for you about how what you're wearing and your style choices. So then we go into food, and we go into education, and we go into the world of work. So each of them kind of takes on these questions of how will this actually improve our lives in the future?
Fascinating. So what do you see some of the practical challenges do you actually potentially see with regards to consumers as well as companies themselves in terms of adoption in the near future as well?
Well, I think one of the use cases that will be adopted first by companies is something that we're already kind of seeing in terms of the use of telepresence and FaceTime. So if you're on a job site and you're confused about something, you will take out your phone and you will get on FaceTime and you'll just show somebody that situation and say, I haven't worked on this kind of heater before, or plumbing situation, or shutting down a power plant, whatever you're challenged by. And in that situation, you'll want to kind of beam an expert into your field of view so that they can see what you're working on. And for that use case, I mean, I think it really will change and allow a lot of people to level up in a new way to kind of, there are not that many moments of the day which you may need help, but in those moments where you do need help, especially if you're working on critical infrastructure, you really want to not make a mistake. So I think it will have a profound effect on kind of what people feel comfortable doing, kind of the ability to upskill a workforce. Those will be training moments, but they will definitely be kind of ad hoc computer vision assisted moments where you have a real person that sees what you see and then is able to draw on the world in front of you. So that's kind of the exciting part of this. It's not just seeing through your eyes, but it's also making marks on the world that you see in front of you to help guide you or help you, not cut the red wire first.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, I think of myself, right? Back in the days when Google Glass, for example, was first introduced, right?
It was a fundamentally different technology than what we're dealing with today. So,
absolutely.
It was a floating screen that was glued to your head position, as opposed to information that was glued to the world. So that's an essential difference. And so all of these technologies that we are working with today that use waveguides, that use cameras. They're called spatial location and mapping. So it's basically like a LiDAR camera system in the front of the glasses that is understanding the world in front of you and anchoring information into that world. So it's much more powerful than just having like a floating Post-it note up here.
So David, I saw you're holding these glasses. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Sure thing. Yeah. So I have a couple pairs of glasses here. These don't do anything special except correct my vision. These are some glasses that are built by a company in Toronto called North. They were actually acquired by Google. I think they're interesting because they look almost normal, but if you look carefully, you can see there's a projector that is a little Pico projector that projects a really high-res image out onto the glasses, and you can't tell, but I can see the types of things that people are probably getting from their watches today, which is like turn-by-turn directions, how far is the Uber away, notes on your slides. If you're giving a talk, you can kind of get like a what to say in any particular situation. The music that's playing on Spotify, kind of like that stuff. There are no cameras on the front of these glasses, so it's just a display-only medium. These are just out a couple of weeks ago by a collaboration with Ray-Ban, so they look pretty stylish, and and also with Facebook, and so they're called Facebook Stories, I think. And they have basically AirPods on the side, so you can hear, you can take a call. They have microphones on the side, and then they have two 4K cameras on the front. And so they're really used for kind of capturing the world in front of you. And it's interesting that the default behavior is you tap here, and it takes a 30-second video that you can share on social, or you hold down, and it takes a still shot. So it's interesting. Their bias is get people to take video and share video. But I think one of the reasons these are really powerful is you think about these already solve the use case of getting somebody else to see what you see. Mm-hmm. So imagine like you're in a situation where you need a little like OnStar, you need a little bit of help, you need some advice on navigation or how to perform something that's complicated. Being able to allow someone to see through your eyes and still be hands-free is like, I think, a powerful use case for all kinds of jobs where you just want somebody to kind of teleport in and then mark up the world in front of you. I should mention that there's a really nice app that PTC makes called Chalk. PTC is a company in Boston, Parametric Technology Corp. And they're doing a lot of nice innovation in AR. And their app called Chalk basically is like FaceTime with real world markups. So somebody else can say like that wire, that dial, this is how to sort that out. And it's just those marks persist for one session only. And it is kind of interesting to think about, do you want the marks that someone else makes on the world to be only visible by you or to be visible by everyone on your team? And maybe only for this week, or should they last through the end of the project? Or, would it be helpful to have some marks that kind of last for all time? It's kind of an interesting question. It's one of the frameworks in the book is kind of this 2x2 that considers like how big is the audience and how long is the durability of the mark.
I think that technology is certainly improved, like you said, as it improves and becomes really a part of our lives. What specific technologies or consumer electronics that we use today do you believe are going to be obsoleted by smart glasses in the near future?
Yeah, I think that the this idea that something's going to be obsoleted or cannibalized, that was the word I was looking for. Like having an old technology that gets cannibalized by a new technology, like it just doesn't tend to happen as fast as some people would like it to. My previous company called Ambient Devices created these little wireless indicators of information. So like an orb that could show you what the weather's going to be tomorrow, or how your stocks are doing, or when the next bus is coming, or a dashboard that you can glance at in order to see like business metrics or when your next meeting is. And people really like multiples. We like, as industries mature, we kind of tend to like more specialization and more complexification of things rather than having everything converge and cannibalize each other. So if you think about like mature categories, like what's a mature category? Shoes. Like shoes have been out for a long time. Is there one pair of shoes that's cannibalized all other pairs of shoes in your closet and therefore you only have one pair of shoes? No, like you've got tens and tens of shoes. You've got tens of wine glasses for drinking different kinds of things. You have like mature categories, you tend to have more redundancy. And I feel like communication tech kind of will follow that same pattern where like, will smart glasses cannibalize like a wrist-worn Apple Watch or Samsung Watch? Like, no, like they'll kind of do different things for you. One will be kind of optimized for certain types of information that's glanceable that you really want to raise your wrist for. And then the other one will have different types of information. And, I think that you will still have a black glass slab of a phone, even in 10 or 20 years. And they probably won't just be one perfect size. You'll probably have like 10 of them. Like, why not have 10 of them? Like, one's more waterproof, one's more durable, one's lighter and has a shit battery life, one's, you'll have many, many more connected devices that that would be even hard to imagine today, including multiple pairs of glasses. So I think it'll go more like that, like mature categories, not like one device to rule them all.
Interesting. All right. And then You've actually called SuperSight in your book this decade's convergence technology. Can you expand on that a little bit more and explain to us how companies can attract talent? I think with different kind of different sets of very niche technologies, kind of very fast evolving technologies like neural networks, with 5G and edge computing, etc., with all of these things converging and with it being so hard to find and attract and those kind of things, and SuperSight being at the middle of all of that, it's, I think, becoming very difficult for companies to attract and develop that type of talent. Can you, do you have any thoughts on how companies can attract and develop that type of talent as it relates to SuperSight and augmented reality?
Yeah, I think a lot of these technologies, have been in the labs for a long time. Certainly, computer vision has been kind of a problem that people in robotics have needed to solve, or people that are doing, working with drones or working with satellite imagery to try to figure out, what's happening in other countries that might, represent threats to our country. So the technology has a long nose of being available to researchers or wide specialists. But as technologies mature, they kind of become more commoditized and democratized and can kind of get built into tools that are more available for all of us to use. So it used to be that, think about when you first learned Photoshop, you had to figure out like where the faces were and re-level all of the lighting and all the faces. And now that technology of like finding a face is built into every phone, and so it can do focusing and mirror and leveling on the faces in the photo, and it can even like figure out whether the eyes are closed and like prefer the photo where everyone's like eyes are open and teeth are shown. So it's as that once exotic technology grows, it will become more available in more tools. And where we're seeing that today with SuperSight is there are companies like Niantic comes to mind, who first commercialized Pokemon, and they just announced last week that Niantic has a tool that plugs into Unity, which is a game engine, and allows anybody who wants to build a world game, to anchor content in the world. It might be a tourist attraction, it might be a navigation thing for biking. Who knows what people are going to build, but they kind of took everything that they had to build for Pokemon and are putting it into a tool that represents a broad horizontal capability. So now anybody can use a map of the world, something called scene segmentation, which is the ability to say which pixels are occupied by buildings, which pixels are occupied by the sky. So if you're an artist and you want to make like a blimp, a big fish that goes by in the sky that doesn't go over the buildings but just goes behind the buildings, like you can build that now using Niantic's tool. So you don't have to be a specialist in computer vision or neural networks. You just have to know a little bit about building stuff in Unity.
Right.
And I mean, I think my big advice for digital designers, people interested in kind of building these immersive technology experiences, learn the game engines. Get in there and like learn Unreal Engine or Unity. There's a ton of YouTube content about like how to get in there and start using those tools. But boy, like they solve the problem. They have big asset stores, they have physics, they have lighting, they have various levels of detail as you get closer to things. Like I have 2 projects that I'm working on right now. I'd love to talk about them a little bit if you want to get into them. One is about kind of ways for water, and the other one's about envisioning sustainable landscapes. And they both are basically built off of a game engine.
Oh wow, very interesting. Wow. And then what about for companies? I mean, do you have any advice for companies? I mean, as they're kind of getting into these immersive technologies, I mean, it requires a lot of work. I mean, one of the applications that you've described in your book was iNaturalist, which allows you to identify bugs and plants and animals, right?
Right.
Which, for a user, it seems like such a simple thing. You're pointing a camera and then, it tells you what kind of an animal that is, which from a user standpoint, that's simple enough, but there's so much work that probably goes behind the scenes that there is a lot of manual labor that goes into actually identifying those things, and somebody has to train the image, initially, the algorithm itself. Somebody has to develop the algorithm. There's a neural network that's involved. So there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. What are your kind of recommendations for a company that is working on these immersive tools in order to kind of build a project team? I mean, how do you kind of attract that talent? How do you build that project team? You've done something like this in the past. Like, what was some of your learnings from that?
Sure, I'm happy to speak to that. One of the things that's really powerful about iNaturalist is they've built a system that in a way kind of outsources a lot of the work onto the crowd. Mm-hmm. So rather than having to hire everybody to go take pictures of all possible plants and add labels to those to build up a corpus of training data, instead they got started and they probably recruited a bunch of students at first because it was built off a project at Stanford. But now what they're doing is they're having everybody who finds a novel bug or a novel plant, leaf or that kind of thing, if the app doesn't recognize it, it will propose like it could be this or it could be this. Like the neural net's not sure, and so then it goes through a special workflow, which is it goes to another person who says, "Yeah, I would confirm that of the You thought it might be one of these 5 things. It's actually this one. I can confirm that because I'm an expert." So then the system can retrain and get smarter and smarter, not based on your staff, but based on the world of just interested people who are doing that. So I think that's kind of lesson 1 for companies is try to design these self kind of feedback loops to get higher quality, more diverse data that you don't have to do in-house. So like one example of that is, identifying the natural world is one thing, and that may be relevant for, a landscaping business or something where you want to say like, my thing is dying. What should I do about it? Like what chemical should I use in order to help this, or this dying plant. But if you think about all of the things for which it's hard to describe them exactly, like think of all the things that Home Depot sells, and sometimes you just like you need like a screw that's a little bit like this, or a door stopper that's a little bit like this, and if you could just take a picture of something and have it say, oh, I gotcha, like I got the size of that, I got the threads, I got the, like, here's the most similar one to the one you picked up. That's really valuable for things that are hard to describe or things that are hard to shop for. Like you could say, I want a watch that's kind of like that guy's. And you wouldn't have to say, like, well, what material is it, and what genre of style is it, and what year was it built? Like, you don't know any of that. You just want to shop for similar other things. And so, Etsy and Houzz and a bunch of e-com companies are trying to do that kind of shop similar, where there's a kind of neighborhood of design where you want to locate something. So, use the crowd is kind of one lesson. In terms of, so I was last at Warby Parker, the glasses company that just went public, and worked on two projects there. One was a system for online eye testing, where rather than going into a doctor and, covering your eye and trying to see if your glasses are the right power, people can do that from home. So that's really disruptive as like a telemedicine idea. We hired a bunch of ophthalmologists in every state in the US, and then the data goes to them and they write the new script. So a doctor still must be involved in that, but we can do all the data gathering from your apartment. And the other thing was a virtual try-on app, which is now built into the e-com app for the company, where you can see what glasses look like on your face. So to build that virtual try-on, we needed a team of people that were data scientists who could figure out for people that have faces like yours, these are the glasses that they have purchased and not returned in the past, not returned. So it was like a big data problem. It was also a 3D models problem. We had to get high quality 3D models of all the types of glasses with all the right reflectance. Doing crystal was a challenge. And we also had to find people that could figure out how to kind of reverse engineer the iPhone X camera. So when we did it, basically the iPhone X camera had the ability to unlock the phone with your face. So what they do to enable that is a little infrared data projector in the top of the camera that casts a pattern of 40,000 dots on your face. So we use that in order to figure out what's your pupillary distance, what's the nose bridge height, and in order to kind of map the terrain of your face and then put good-looking glasses on top. So that took it took a team of people who were like front-end designers, back-end, more DevOps people, so most of the interesting things that people are building now, takes a pretty diverse team of people to come together and build those.
Excellent.
And a lot of testing. We issued a new version about every week for about 15 or 20 weeks, where we'd find something that, after watching 4 or 5 people use it, we're like, oh, wow, we could really make it better like in this way. People are lost right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the type of work we do as well. I mean, with our clients all the time. I mean, that's just, staffing, in the staffing world, we're constantly in projects in which data science, I think, it's one of those things where incredibly sometimes underappreciated for the amount of work that goes into the specialization that's required. And then the amount of labor and just the amount of skill sets that are required to ensure that something productive is going to happen in the end. I mean, because they are an absolute key cog in what is going to really come out of the other end, right? Like,
absolutely. I was just thinking about how important that analytics are, right. Like in every. We kind of, for the eye testing process, it was about 15 steps long, and we were trying to measure fall off at every step. Like how many people, once you ask them like, hey, can we use your GPS to figure out where you are in the world so we can get you, hooked up to the right doctor to issue a new prescription. Some people are like, no, I don't really, they didn't move on after that. And there were some health history questions, some of which were kind of personal about, you know, are there people in your family that suffer from these kind of disease states? And some people chose not to go past that. And so we had to test, like, where do we put the financial transaction in this flow? You know, is it a kind of thing where you pay first, and then if you have paid, you know, like, we'll lose a lot of people at the pay step, but then once you've paid, not a lot of people after that? Or is it kind of a free sample idea where you just get people going, you make the eye test kind of fun, a little gamified, and then you choose a doctor to send the data to, and then you ask them some family health history stuff, and then the last step is the payment step, where you feel like, oh, I've had this beautiful meal, and now, like, do you want to pay for the meal? And you're like, oh, I guess, you know, I guess it's been good. Yeah, I guess I will pay for that.
Premium kind
so,
of a...
Right. So we tested a bunch of different, positioning different actions at different points in the flow to see what the drop-off would be at each.
Excellent. I want to just once again remind everybody, David just released his new book, SuperSight, what augmented reality means for our lives, our work, and the way we imagine the future. Excellent.
Can I mention one thing about the book? So in addition to kind of showing a lot of use cases across a lot of industries, I do try to I do get to kind of what are the hazards in this new technology as well. So I point, you know, kind of 6 specific things that we have to, you know, design around in order to make sure that we aren't, you know, creating a dystopic future that we don't want. And certainly there will be more ability than ever before in order to understand what people are interested in by looking at what they look at and what they dwell on, even subconsciously. And I talk about kind of issues around you know, privacy and surveillance and equity issues and access issues. So I think those are, you know, I take those really seriously and try to offer some like specific actionable things to, you know, ways of designing things so people are, you know what data is being gathered and have the choice to blow it away if they want.
Absolutely.
And I guess the last thing to say is that I think this augmentation technology is not only a smart glasses thing. You know, that will be kind of the way that most people think about, you know, is a binocular, like you're seeing the real world and you're seeing something else overlaid on top of the real world, but it can also happen through, you know, hold up the phone experiences, which, you know, billions of phones are already have that capability. Or some of my students from MIT are doing an AR flashlight. So you just hold up the flashlight to the wall of a building, and because of the building information system, it shows you like where the pipes are and where the electric is, and, you know, kind of shows you an X-ray view of that wall. But that's a flashlight experience, so it's still augmented reality, but it's you know, painted through something that you hold up with your hand. Not could do the phone, could do glasses, but I think there'll be like a diversity of projection technologies that we're seeing for this.
For sure. All right.
Cool. Well,
Great.
thanks for the fun conversation. Yeah.
This was really great conversation. Really appreciate your time, and hope to see you again in the future. Thanks, and best of luck.